What's up, homies? Welcome back to our discussion about The Mandalorian, Chapter 11, The Heiress. We're going to talk about spoilers because there's no way to go into this episode without talking about spoilers. But if you want to check out our reaction, click the link down in the description or check out in the top corner of your screen. I think everybody 404'd it in this moment.
Yeah.
But I thought, so to kind of kick things off, directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, who, for me personally, the episode that she did last season, which I believe was Chapter 4, was not the strongest one of the season. And I didn't know that she had directed this until Hector mentioned it right at the beginning of the reaction. The episode was so freaking good. Like, I was just really impressed to see a director come in and do another episode of a show and like knock it out of the park. So we get to this moment where the child is obviously like put into a situation where Mandalorian has to rescue it. Goes down into the water, and then we're thinking like, okay, how the hell is the Mandalorian got to get out of this? Because he's basically being pitchforked underwater and is about to turn into like fish food, more or less. And then these Mandalorians show up, and we're like, great, this is rad, this is cool, we get some new characters, awesome. And then you like start looking at the characters, I'm like, why does this character kind of look like Sabine?
Why is there art on her?
Yeah, like this is very decorative. This is very familiar territory. And Mando, eventually, like they get the Mandalorian out, they get the child out, all is good. The bassinet is hella tight and doesn't get any water in. We're good. And then the helmets come off. And Hector, you called it, and you were like, that's Bo-Katan.
Yeah.
It's Katie Sackhoff.
Yeah. Well, I didn't call it the closed captioning did. Closed captioning said Bo-Katan
I didn't have closed captioning on, so all I saw was Mandalorian take her helmet off, and I saw Katie Sackhoff, and I'm like, wait a goddamn second.
How do you think I know that the character's name was Frog Lady? The closed captioning tells us Frog Lady, Frogman. Like, that's how you get the character names in shows like this. I also want to say, too, back to, like, Bryce Dallas Howard directing her season 1 episode versus this one. I also wonder, too, if, like, when her episode came out in season 1, I feel like it was the first one that was the most episodic when it popped up, because he goes to that planet that's the sort of like farmland planet, and he had to train the farmers, and it was so removed from what the mission of the series was.
I mean, the episode before was Deborah Chow's episode, and you had all these Mandalorians flying down.
That's what I'm saying. That it felt,
and I'm like,
what? It felt the most like adventure of the week, side questy. That I wonder if when season 2 came around, if either Bryce Dallas Howard herself or if the showrunners, Jon Favreau, the creators, if they were like, hey, let's give Bryce an episode that's way more Mandalorian-y. You know what I mean? Like maybe that's the difference. Because I remember enjoying her episode from season 1, but felt like, it felt like the first one when we were chomping at the bit. That was kind of a slowdown. When I went back and rewatched all of season 1, I saw it with my roommate Chelsea because she hadn't seen it. I remember being like, this is, once you kind of know what you're in for, I think you can appreciate that episode a little bit more. You get to this one, and it is the most Star Wars-y callback, fan service, like epic, and like it's just awesome.
That's the thing, though. Yeah. It's not, because it's only fan servicey if you've been watching the animated series.
Right.
If you don't watch Rebels, you have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Which is amazing to me, because everybody knows how big of an animation fan I am, and I am geeking out still hardcore that I cannot believe that they're doing this. I cannot believe that they're doing this.
The test is going to be, Augustine, we're in the position where, like, when you rewatch this show with Cynthia, when I'm going to watch it with Abby, like, that's the test. It's like, they're Star Wars fans as well, but they didn't see Clone Wars and Rebels.
Exactly.
So it's like, how is this character of Bo-Katan going to come across? How's this all going to work? That's going to be very interesting.
Right. That is very interesting, because I cannot wait to watch it with my wife, because it's going to be interesting to see her reaction when I know all this history of like things that are, why she has art on her helmet and why she's looking for the dark saber, and who this person is at the end of the day. It's blowing my mind that Dave Filoni and Mark Favreau have realized that this story in Rebels is so important to base off this whole next branch of Star Wars off of. I think it's a perfect jump off point. You don't need to watch the show, but if you have not seen Star Wars Rebels, you need to go back right now, right at this moment. Don't pause this video. Keep it playing.
But even before that,
go back.
If you hadn't seen Star Wars: The Clone Wars, you need to go back to that.
And if you haven't seen Clone Wars, and if you haven't seen
the
Gendy's
prequels,
Clone Wars,
yeah.
go back and watch that one. Because all of this stuff is awesome build up to what's happening right now. I just can't believe this is my 404 EXE reaction video.
We talked about it a little before we started recording, and I think traditionally, and I think this is a bad take, and I don't know like why this was the case a lot of the time, was when you had something that was live action and then you had an animated counterpart of that thing, you always thought about it less. It was always less than because it wasn't live action.
Yeah.
And I think the amazing thing that we have with this opportunity with Star Wars, especially because you have Filoni and Favreau at the helm of this thing, you can literally tie these things all together and they don't have to be independent entities. Rebels can tie in, just like the animated shows do. Clone Wars and like Rebels is a sequel to Clone Wars. And I think like when that initially happened, I didn't think of it that way. I just thought of it of like, oh, it's a story that takes place, 15 years after or 18 years after Clone Wars or whatever. But then you start to like really dive into Ezra and all the other characters and Hera, and you start to realize like how much these characters their stories tie back in to Clone Wars, and you're like, this is not two separate shows. This is just one show divided by time. And like to me, that's what Mandalorian is.
Yes, it's a great tie-in, but also not just Ezra and Hera, the greatest droid of all time, who is Chopper.
Yeah.
Like we have to see Chopper in this episode or in this series at some point.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right, Adam. It's validating for all of that animated stuff and not just treating it as a throwaway product. Because if anything, Rebels is not. It has such beautiful moments. There are moments in which Ezra, he's building his saber and Yoda comes and speaks to him, from beyond. And all of these moments that are so good that made me love Star Wars. Is it not just like, oh yeah, Star Wars? No, Rebels made me love Star Wars.
Oh, listen, to go back to Clone Wars for a second, the story arc where the Wookiee child is Jedi training and makes a lightsaber out of wood.
Dude.
I was like,
he's got the wooden handle.
I was like, I love this character, and it is so sad that this character is going to die in Order 66. Like, wow, this is great. This is I mean, that is where I believe now the strength of Star Wars has kind of always been, and especially now. And this is again not a knock on the sequel trilogy, which is very divisive. And there are things I love about it, and there are things I didn't like about it. But you can only do so much. With 3 movies, as we're learning, 2 hours a pop. You can only do so much. You have to service that huge, massive story of the Resistance versus the First Order, and Rey and Luke, and you have to service all that stuff, and Kylo Ren. And I think like handfuls of characters were really done super well in that sequel trilogy, but all of so many other side fan favorite characters, Poe Dameron and Finn especially, and Rose and Admiral Holdo and all these other like side characters, it's like you can do a lot more with them. And I think that you can explore that stuff with this expanded media. Star Wars knew this from the 90s. The difference now is that because, like I said before, things got so zany crazy with those expanded universe books and comic books and stuff, that Disney in 2015 was like, we're going to start fresh. And that really gives them an opportunity to kind of build an animated series long-term. And then they can step back and look at it and go, what do we have here? What's the best stuff here? What can we continue to use and mine from? What can we honor? Who can we, And seeing Katie Sackhoff reprise her role was awesome. It also made me think about how, at the end, she name drops Ahsoka Tano. And I was thinking, I'm like, I think we're going to, it hasn't been confirmed, but I think we're going to see her, and I think it's going to be Rosario Dawson. And it made me think about how Katie Sackhoff got to reprise her role, but the voice actress who played Ahsoka wasn't asked or, allegedly.
Ashley Eckstein, yeah.
Ashley Eckstein. And Ashley Eckstein does a fantastic job, but I think that it's also interesting. My take on it is I believe that it was kind of confirmation that like Ahsoka Tano physically is supposed to be coded as like a person of color. Like a Black or Latina or Latinx or Afro-Latina. Like physically, that's who she is coded, even though she's an alien. You know what I mean? Like that's how that character was supposed to look if she were live action. And then Ashley Eckstein who's a white actress, but a fantastic voice actress, like voiced her. And so I feel like when they were like, well, let's bring this character, it's the same with Ezra. Like if he were to be played by an actor, and I think his voice actor was also maybe a person of color. I can't remember, but I know that like Freddie Prinze played his mentor, Kanan. And if we ever saw Kanan in live action in any, story set in the past or whatever, like Freddie could do it because it's like Kanan.
I mean, Freddie voiced Kanan in episode 9.
Exactly.
In the voiceover sequence.
Specifically, when we make that jump from animation and just audio voice to like a live action representation of a presentation of a person, I think Freddie could do it because Kanan's supposed to again be coded as like, is he supposed to be like a Latinx guy, like a Latino man? I think so. Even though Latin America is not a location in Star Wars, we understand this, right? Yeah. If Lando is a black man, is Kanan a Latino man? And I'm like, I think so. And I think the same is true with Ezra. And then when you get to Ahsoka, I'm like, I think she's supposed to be a woman of color, I think. So it's going to be awesome to see her in live action. Of course, I do wish that Ashley Eckstein got to play her, but just like we had in season 1, we had that actor who played, what's the actor's name? Matt Lanter, right? Who voiced Anakin in the Clone Wars, like just played like the guard at the prison. I'm like, Ashley, I would love to see her play something in live action Star Wars to continue to honor, it's Dave Filoni, it's everybody at Star Wars, continuing to honor like the people who worked on and made those animated series as beloved as they were. That would be great. But I also think it's very cool that they are could potentially confirm again. Rosario Dawson is never confirmed to be in this show. Her casting was never confirmed. So no idea. But I really love that character. And especially that last new season of Clone Wars that they came out with. Like, she had an incredible parallel story running with Revenge of the Sith. Like, it was dope. So I'm really excited about what we could see. I mean, just as excited as I was to see Bo-Katan. It's the coolest thing. It's such a cool feeling.
Hector, your ass needs to watch Rebels immediately.
I know.
You need to finish Rebels tonight.
I know.
No excuses.
All 4 seasons.
You need to finish all 4 seasons tonight.
I know.
I'm not even kidding at this point. I'm going to go to your house.
I can't wait.
I'm going to get COVID tested.
I bought them all on Blu-ray.
I'm going to go to your house.
I bought them
and then I'm going to watch them with you.
I have all 4 seasons on Blu-ray. I have it on Blu-ray. I watched 1 season and I went, I'm buying the show. And then I never got around to finishing up the rest of that series.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it's awesome.
Now you need to.
I also and I know that when Giancarlo Esposito showed up as Moff Gideon and he was rocking the Darksaber, of course, immediately everybody was like, where did he get it? How did he get it? Was he in the Siege of Mandalore? Did he interact with any of these characters? Like,
take it from Darth Maul. Like,
yeah,
what?
and I think there's like still a lot of those questions that are yet to be answered of exactly how Moff Gideon came into possession of the Darksaber. I think it's so damn cool. Like Augustine was saying, that if you have been dedicating yourself to Star Wars for the last technically 12, 13 years at this point, whenever Rebels or Clone Wars officially started,
I think
2008, I think. Yeah. If you've been dedicated to the franchise and to animation, to the animation part of Star Wars for that long, the payoff is there. And I think that's so damn cool that we are doing that because, again, I think very, very commonly it happens that animation and live action are like 2 completely separate things, totally different. And now it's like, we don't have to do that. We can pay off things that we set up years ago that we left questions open-ended.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if this is going to be the story of Bo getting the Darksaber back, because the Darksaber is an ancient artifact. It's not necessarily like we saw the arc of the Darksaber and Bo in Rebels. I don't think they need to retell that story. This is where Moff Gideon throws a wrench in those plans temporarily, and it's an arc. Maybe we are going to see Bo grab the Darksaber, but not follow her to the end of that story, So it could be, because the show's called The Mandalorian. It's more of a Mad Max style story, more of a Lone Wolf and Cub style story.
Also, it's about this baby right here. This baby.
Oh, there's the baby.
This baby.
Okay, he was better behaved this episode. He was better behaved this episode.
He was much better behaved this episode. Thank you for not eating any tadpoles. Don't eat any pollywogs.
And I think and I think at the end of the day, I of course it would be amazing to see all of those like loose ends tied up. But again, you're right. The show's called The Mandalorian. It's about Din Djarin. It's about the child. And like already the fact that the mission of this story is to reunite this character with the Jedi, like already that's like, yo, you've already given me enough.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't want this show to become a show about Jedi. I want it to be a Mandalorian-centric show, and I want it to be about the Mandalorian.
Absolutely.
And now we brought in Boba Fett. I want to know more about that.
Yeah.
And I want to know more about that group of
Vanth.
people. Exactly. Like I want to know more about those. I want to know more about that group of people.
Yeah.
But the fact that it like dips its toe into stuff that we know and we love, I'm like, yeah, that's a Star Wars I love. I don't need it to now all of a sudden shift and be like, it's the Ahsoka and Mando show. I'm like, I don't want that.
Right.
I want it to be the Mando show,
No.
and I want it to just like pay homage to these things that we've come to love.
Hey, but
and
real
it's doing
talk,
it, and,
real
and
talk,
I'm
real
loving
talk,
it.
Real talk.
Be real,
We
son.
see,
Be real,
if
son.
we see Ahsoka in this, and people flip their poop.
I will.
8-episode Disney Plus miniseries Ahsoka Tano live action. I'm just saying.
Calling
I'm just
it now.
saying. I'm
Calling
just saying.
it now.
Because
I
it's like
mean-
you have to ask, why wasn't she in the sequel trilogy? What happened? What happened? We heard her at the end of episode 9, but I think every other character there was also like a Force ghost, right? Were any of those characters alive at the end of episode 9 when they all said, "We are with you"?
I would say Force Ghost, but I mean, because you look at the timeline and like it's very possible that the species of Ahsoka Tano can live way longer than like a human.
True.
So what I'm noticing though is that our conversation is going very much towards Rebels, but this episode presented something very important as well.
Yeah.
Mandalorians taking off their helmets.
That's right.
And the Mandalorian probably not being able to process that yet, but where does he lie in all of this that's happening? Because he's in this episode, he shows could be a relic of the past or a very small sect. Like his life could be a very small sect of what is happening in the Mandalorian community as a whole. And also, like, where does he lie, and will he be comfortable? Are we gonna see Pedro Pascal? Are we gonna see his beautiful face on screen, taking off his helmet and being comfortable with it? Did this just throw a wrench in the ideology of what the Mandalorian, of what he's believed his entire life? I think that's really the crux of this episode.
I firmly believe too. I think if the Boba Fett tease was more than just that, and we actually get to see Din Djarin and Boba Fett have an actual conversation, a sit-down conversation, I wonder if it's going to be about that, about what it is to be Mandalorian, about the ideals and the beliefs and like all that stuff, like the really deep meaning of being a Mandalorian.
He kept saying like that planet is cursed. I'm like, homie, that's Mandalore.
Yeah.
That's very interesting that this character from this tribe or whatever feels that way. I think that's very, very interesante. Boba Fett, as far as we know, and I could be wrong, and I'm sure the comments are going to tell me, Boba Fett from the beginning was not a traditional Mandalorian. Like, this dude is the clone of a bounty hunter who took on that armor and was Mandalorian, or for some reason had that armor in that way. And this kid who grew up into this other bounty hunter, like there's just so much weird messed up psychology of like, my clone progenitor / father was killed, decapitated. I loved him, but I am him, and I look just like him. And now I grew up, and there's like a lot of interesting, weird parental stuff you could get into that with that. But just the fact that I feel like Boba Fett has always been on the fringe. You know what I'm saying? He's always been on the outer rim, as it were. So to bring him into this very staunch, like, I can never take off my helmet. And Boba Fett's like, homie, I got eaten by a Sarlacc monster.
Yeah.
Shut up.
And
Like,
I mean, Jango Fett, you know, not being a traditional like Mandalorian, he took his helmet off all the time too.
it's true.
You know, when we meet Jango Fett for the first time, when Obi-Wan Kenobi meets him, he's like, he doesn't have a helmet on. So like, I do wonder about a lot of that stuff too, of like, how much was Boba Fett dedicated to like the traditional religion or whatever of the code of the Mandalorians versus not, because his father seemed to kind of be like, no, I'm not Mandalorian, but yeah, you know, I wear the armor, and you know, so I'm like really curious to see like where our Mandalorian kind of falls in to place with all that stuff, and if at some point if he's just like, this is the way, and just pops his helmet off.
This episode just blew the lid off of this entire series. No joke. No joke. This episode was a game changer. And if you have not seen any of Rebels,
That's the takeaway.
That's the takeaway. Go back and watch it.
Yeah.
But also, if you are not going to watch it, let me know your reaction. Like, how do you feel about this episode? Do you not feel the same feelings that we're feeling?
I like Katie Sackhoff. She's cool.
Is it okay? Like, I want to know a person's reaction that has no ties to these characters that I'm geeking out over. Our Discord is popping off right now with
There
people
are so
throwing
many spoiler tags, and I'm just like,
there are
now I
so
know
many spoiler
why.
tags.
Okay.
There's such a good discussion
All right,
happening.
I'm gonna
I
jump in
can't
there.
wait to geek out with my people right now.
I'm gonna jump in there.
Yeah, definitely. It's
Cool.
it's
So
good. It's good.
So good.
Okay.
Guys, let us know any other things that we might have not been able to cover because we're literally just like mind blown at this moment. We literally just finished watching this episode and recorded this. But check out our reaction as well. Let us know all your thoughts. And what are you looking forward to seeing? And if there's any other characters that have shown up previously in Clone Wars or Rebels that are potentially still alive that you would like to see, let us know in the comments below. Subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll see you in the next episode.